Hello, everyone. We are here. We are live. Thank you, Gemma, for joining me. And I am so excited about today.
I'm excited about today.
So we're going to start talking, and I feel it's important to just give everybody a little, it is definitely the day of days, isn't it? A little back history on how we came to be having this talk. And it was just a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it, that you felt something energetically with me, sent me an energetic invitation to speak to you, which I did the next day, didn't I?
Yeah.
And I actually wanted to on the day, but didn't have the words. And the next day I sent you a voice message because I felt it was so important for you to hear my voice. Because with written things, you can't hear voice, tone, intonation, and things can go horribly wrong with text, can't they?
Yeah.
And it was so important, I felt, that that we could talk. And what was absolutely wonderful is you saw me and what I was saying, and you took it and explored it, and we explored together. And it was only something you said, and I thought, I don't experience that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole thought of, what if we're tapped into different dimensions? And that led to a whole big conversation between us, didn't it?
It did. I love the openness of it, in that we both had different experiences, and then what we were able to do is hold those experiences and say, what if actually these are both true at the same time? And then that's where our heads exploded, and we had a conversation, and then we thought, right, we need to bring this conversation live.
Yeah. And it's really magical, because it's so easy to shut down those conversations, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
To either get defensive, and this is it's my truth, it's right, and it can end up just being a mess rather than an exploration.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I thought it was important as well, is to share that backstory, because it actually came out of us seeing things completely differently to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But finding that, yes, we could both see that and both be right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the key.
Yeah.
Element. Yeah, it was almost like the initial conversation that we had, like the example of us doing that was then us living and breathing what we want to talk about in terms of like multiverses. So yeah. Where do we start?
Where do we start? Yeah. I think asking everybody to sort of suspend belief,
Mm-hmm.
and openly explore, rather than staying to sort of, this is what I believe. What if what we believe is so different to what we really think? And I have an example, and it's everybody talks about left and right brain, and the creative and the analytical. And they've now discovered that creatives actually use the whole of the brain that they have access to. And yet people still talk about left and right brain. Things change, new insights happen. And if we hold things too tight, we don't allow ourselves room to grow, do we?
No. I feel there's an important thing in here about, I was going to say coaching, but I feel it's like how we can hold multiple truths, and how often do we give advice and we say, this is what I've experienced in this scenario, so you might experience that slightly different, but here's what I did, here are the steps, but those steps for me might not be the same steps for you.
Yeah.
And you might be experiencing that thing totally different. So it's also like, how can we hold, which is kind of what we did in our conversation, Jill, wasn't it? Like, how can we hold that space that there could be multiple versions of the truth, firstly, and secondly, that everyone has their own truth, their own journey, their own awareness, and allow and hold space for that. And that is the bit I feel needs to be kind of expanded. It could probably solve a lot of the world's problems, really, if we had that, if we were able to hold that space for whatever that truth is for that person.
Yeah. And you're right, we held that space open for each other. And as we explored and asked questions, it got deeper, didn't it?
It did. Shall we share? I'm happy to share this specific thing.
Yeah, go ahead if you want. I didn't want to jump in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I had experienced, and strangely enough, I was on a call. It's not very pretty, but I was on a call this morning with my quantum ladies, and drew this diagram of the dimensions, which is really just like, it was very messily done in my in mirror image while I was looking at the screen. But what I channeled, and this is then also something that somebody in one of my programs channeled as well, she won't mind me sharing that anonymously, was that the angels are stuck in the fourth dimension. And both her and I had, without even speaking to each other about it, had received that same information, to say that that they were in this fourth dimension. So you know, we, like, by connecting to the angels, by asking them for guidance, protection, whatever that thing might be, we're only going into the 4D. We're not actually coming up into the interdimensional realms. We're not connecting with source, and we can become trapped in this 4D state. And the message that I got through was, please stop asking us for help, because we need your help as humanity. We need your help. Our wings are clipped, and the more you pull on us, the more you're pulling us down into 4D, and we can't help you. So I stopped working with any energies that weren't source and my higher self a long time ago anyway. But that was kind of confirmation for me of that message. So what I'd done is, because I don't really share my channeling, I normally sort of just keep it to myself or for my clients. Sometimes it comes through like in a post or something, but I thought, right, I'm going to share this message. So I shared the message, and then actually I got loads of different responses to that. I had people come forward and say, that's true for me. People come forward and say, I'm not sure, or questions. So what I did with that response is just said, oh, what is true for you? What do you feel? Was like the question that I answered back. And then Jill, you came forward and you had a different view, didn't you? And this is where the whole thing started. So do you want to share like what you've experienced, and then we can kind of come back to that middle bit again?
So when I heard Gemma say this, and I thought, first of all, oh no, that isn't true for me. And then I asked myself the question, but is it really true? And I explored deeper from that. And for me, it still wasn't true, which is what I said to you. And then, I mean, I'd had a dream with Archangel Michael where he's walking with me, and the strength there was like beyond words. And that's when I thought, well, you know, we're multidimensional. And what if I'm tapped into a different dimension where that isn't true for the angels? And then I said to Gemma, what if you're tapped into a different dimension where that is true? So both are true at the same time. And that's when our heads exploded. And we carried on the conversation. And I've been exploring that. And you know, I've questioned more, well, what dimension is this I'm tapped into? And do I stay tapped into that? Can I tap into something else? And it's such a huge subject to explore, isn't it?
It really is. And it really did explode our brains because not only, so back to my lovely, beautiful diagram, not only does like this exist, but it's like what we're saying is potentially multiple versions of this exist. Because for me, I experience the angels in this 4D, which is where like I experience other entities and things as well, and we become trapped in here, and certain elements of certain work that I've been part of, like I feel can take us to here instead of here. But what if for you, Jill, when you tap into that takes you up to like at 7D in here? This was kind of a point I was trying to make earlier, but what if I don't know if that's mirror image for you or not, but what if for you they exist like in the 7D, because your version of reality in the dimensions is different to my reality and to anyone else's reality. Like it's like, what if we all had, which actually is what science is showing us, right? That we all have our own version of the universe, yeah, with multiple versions of us that we can tap into at any point in time.
Yeah. And something I was, you know, I've obviously been contemplating this a lot over the last couple of weeks, and you know, when we're born and we're small children, we see all the different dimensions so easily, and it gets sort of knocked out of us, doesn't it? But all these different versions are right around us, and it's not about going anywhere, is it? It's about letting them come to us. So I wonder also if certain dimensions want to come to us in a stronger way, that something in there is important to be spoken about and taught. And if we had that space to say, wow, that's really interesting, and I'm so glad you talked about it, even if it's not my experience, that's really important to bring that out. We would have such different conversations everywhere, wouldn't we?
We would, yeah. It could change the world. It could literally, if every person in the world was able to hold space for someone else's truth, we would actually change the world. It would solve the world's problems that we've got right now.
Yeah.
Because that's ultimately what wars are, aren't they? Yeah. I don't know how much of this I'll get told off talking about on Facebook, but like that is ultimately why there is not world peace, because one person cannot hold another person's view. That is it.
And it starts with us, and it starts with everybody that's around us.
Mm-hmm.
And don't you think once we start experiencing that around us, then it can ripple out. It's that ripple effect.
Yeah. So we can even, on a vibrational level, we can even we can be around someone who is very much still in 3D and isn't willing to explore, or doesn't know, or isn't conscious of those other dimensions. Yet if we can shift and we can expand our consciousness up to them, vibrationally they will shift as well. So I've seen this happen time and time again, like in relationships where one person is willing to do like the work and the healing, and one person isn't. And yes, that can be a problem if it is, if that is, obviously I'm not saying like if anything abusive or toxic is okay. If it's not, if it's just literally that one person is ready to have that journey to consciousness and one isn't, what I've seen happen is the person that does the work, the shadow work, the inner work, and I would say sustainably moves through those dimensions from doing the inner work, not through going, right, today I'm going to go into 7D, right, let's go, but doing the shadow work to be a clear channel, to have clear energy and things. That other person in their life will receive like a job promotion or an opportunity out of nowhere, or will change a behavior. So what you're saying, Jill, there about the ripples, like I see that happen time and time again, that when we do this work to expand our consciousness, others around us, even without us doing anything or saying anything to them even, can shift and change as well. Have you had experience of that?
Yes, yeah, I have. And something else I explored last week was how many multiverses, how many dimensions are there. And if you go look, you can see wild and varied numbers. And I meditated and I asked the question, how many are there? How do we find out? And what I was given was, we have a choice in all of this. We have a choice to read a book, to do a course, to take other people's information, which is fine, but we also have the choice to receive those answers. And things are so much more than our human can take on board, that the multiverses are vast, beyond our comprehension.
The way I loved it being depicted, I can think what the word was in the Interstellar film, when he's in 5D. I think it's meant to be 5D, and obviously we can't visually literally be floating through that in the same way as shown on the film, but I love the way it's presented, in that he is floating through 5D and he can go to any moment in his life, and he can see as these strings come down of all the crisscrosses of all the dimensions and all the moments of his life, he can just float through and just go to any point in time and see all those different scenarios and then interact with them. I love the way it is presented in that film, and I feel, and that's what I feel we are talking about, but also we can So also as part of this is like where it goes a bit deeper, because also as part of that understanding of having there being a variety of multiverses and us having each of us having our own like universe as such, and then that knowledge that we can go kind of backwards, and we can time travel effectively when we're able to like tap into these dimensions. We can, we can heal things from the past, we can heal things in the future. I had a client the other day where something came up from her future self, and I have like never experienced anything like it in my life, and it blew my mind. It's like, oh, hang on, yeah. And that was for those that have seen the film, like let us know, but like that was in the film as well. Like his future self impacted something. I don't want to like give it away if you haven't seen it, but his future self impacted something like in the now, and you then saw what he did in that future self to impact. So when we have this understanding, not only are we having an understanding and holding that truth, but we're also creating it.
Yeah.
And we're not just creating it in the now, we're creating it in all timelines. Yeah.
And when we think about how time is stacked rather than linear, we can just travel anywhere on that timeline. And I know I've sort of gone to things in my past and made changes, and when I think about it now, I can't find the memory, which is difficult to explain other than I can't find the memory.
I know exactly what you mean. It's that ability to be able to go back, and this is where I feel this is where I want to describe spirituality. Like I feel there's like a definition of spirituality, and then there's a definition of a journey to consciousness. I feel like I can't put this into words again. We did this, we were like, it's energy, I can't put it into words.
Yeah.
What we're actually here to do is expand our consciousness, because ultimately we are going to, as we evolve, again, this is my understanding of truth, what's true for you and everyone watching might be different, is that we are going to become light beings. So we are eventually going to exist more of light than we are of physical resources. That is what we are evolving towards. So what's important is not our developing our spirituality and collecting more and more guides or whatever that thing might be, but it is about expanding our consciousness and being able to connect more fully into the quantum field, because that is ultimately what our evolution is leading us towards. So I would prefer to like describe the journey as a evolution of consciousness rather than, I don't know what I would describe it as, but yeah, kind of more of an evolution of consciousness for me, and I've completely forgotten the point I was trying to make.
Of our spirituality and our consciousness.
Yeah. So when we do healing on something that is in the past, what I feel sometimes I'm doing that thing where I can't put into words. The experience of that can be a bit linear. So it can be like, this is just my understanding of on my journey of this. I'm healing this thing now in the now, because it's impacting me now, and it's like a trauma that I have carried. Whereas actually, when we can have this view of the quantum and the dimensions and how time really exists, we are energetically going back on a thread and actually changing the past.
Or not going back, going
to it here in the now. Yeah, so that's what I feel you're describing, Jill.
Yeah. So,
and that's that expanded consciousness that we can do that.
Yes, so it's like healing there.
Yeah.
And healing there.
Yeah.
Because they're happening all at the same time.
Yeah.
which is hard to get your head around, isn't it?
Mhm. It is.
So
Yeah.
it's so easy to go back to the linear, or back or forward, whereas it's that like column.
Mm.
So it's happening to what we see as past and present, but really it's a whole healing,
Mhm.
because that healing then goes into our future,
Yeah.
which instead of being on that line is on that,
Mhm.
which is also happening now, which means that it's bringing in that healing in a whole level
Mm.
of our being.
And that's where it starts to then get even more complex, and our brains will explode even more, because if, like we say, we're all interconnected. So if I do a healing and that impacts you, Jill, and then you're in your multiverse, which is connected with my multiverse, all in all times, all spaces, all realities, all dimensions, all lives, it just then becomes, and then it's like, wow, okay. And then we've got the collective consciousness as part of that as well, the collective unconscious, and it all exists as I'm seeing like one of those elastic band balls.
Yeah, but I think the biggest thing for me in this, and so thing of real importance, is how we connect together,
Mhm.
how we connect to each other, and like you say, give that space for nobody's wrong. It's just where they are in their journey and where they're tapped into.
Mhm.
And if everybody is enough and everybody is whole and complete, that means that's exactly where they need to be in that moment.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I love that. Everyone is whole and complete. Like, I just think, yeah, if we could carry that view, that would just be, yeah, it's just so powerful.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I sometimes, when somebody will say, oh, I wish they'd wake up.
Mm.
What if they are awake? What if we judge someone as being not awake, and that means we're not awake?
Mm-hmm.
Which you have to explore if you're going to hold space, doesn't it?
Yeah, the Matrix just popped into my head. Like, what if actually they are, the person that we're saying they need to wake up, what if they are awake and they've already unplugged from the Matrix?
Yeah.
But we're still in the Matrix and we're saying wake up, but they're already, like, they can already unplug themselves and go back to the world outside of the Matrix. That's just popped into my head as a bit of an analogy.
Yeah, it's exactly that. And that's why seeing us as all the same. Nobody's more powerful than anybody else. We all have exactly the same power.
Mm.
We may not always use it to our advantage and to the power that it is, but we all have it. So nobody is above anybody.
Mm.
And it just, yes, it changes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. Is there any questions from the group? I just thought I'd have a little look just to...
There are a lot of comments here. Yes. And you're reading them. I don't know if you want to yeah, lots of new insights, and yeah.
Yeah, I love that from Joe. What if the idea of multiverses, levels of consciousness, gives us some guidance as to how to ascend human governed, but the reality is actually a state of one huge universe, one huge consciousness, which we all engage with at our own level. Yeah. Yeah. And Kathleen said, notice that the groups of souls overlap and work together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing comments. Thank you for
Yeah.
your comments. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I mean, this all adds, and it really shows that. Oh, and Kathleen dreamt about speaking to me today. How cool is that?
Yeah.
And it's the conversation here and the comments which are adding to the whole conversation. And I know when you share this in your group, because
because we blew up the tech, didn't we? Let's really, let's talk about what really happened. It was our energy. We blew up the tech. My internet went down, your Zoom went off.
Yeah, we nearly didn't end up here because I'm on Chris's Zoom and it wouldn't open, and I had to sign back in and needed a second verification code, which was done by text, and he's not here. So it was lucky he called and saved the day in like a couple of minutes before we were on, which is so funny, isn't it? Because you could, it could have been so easy to say, oh, well, it's not supposed to happen. But yes, sometimes obstacles just get in the way and we can overcome them. There's a way around, under, over, or whatever. But it turned out easy.
It did, yeah. There's something in that about this conversation as well. I hear a lot sort of, oh, well, this happened, so that must be what's meant for me. And it's like, no. I have this image of like within like each individual multiverse, like and I know it's not linear as such, but like a golden path. So each and every one of us has this golden path that we came here to do and to be. And sometimes things might push us off that path, whether that is tech, whether that is dark interference from other things, because if we are going up into these dimensions, there is lots of different energies, light and dark, within these as well, and sometimes that dark can push us off our path. And this is something that I'm quite passionate about, is I hear like that's okay, it must be that this is meant for me. It's like, no, it's not. Because that's not your, like, you need to stay on your path, and you can create whatever you want to create, and you can stay on that path. Is having that awareness. So it doesn't mean, because we could have said, oh, well, the text obviously showing us we're not meant to have this conversation, but it's like, no, we knew we meant to have this conversation. Like, this is part of the purpose and our mission and what we want to share. So like, things might try and push you off your path, but you do have free will to stay on it.
Yeah. And and yes, it says here that it can be a complicated process to arrive at a very simple truth. I like that. And do you know, if we think of a river doesn't flow, it takes the easiest direction, but it doesn't stop. If there's a boulder there, it may go round, but the continuous movement eventually wears away the path it wants to take.
Love that analogy. Yeah.
So it's not that the boulder is there to stop us, so we're not meant to go there. It's a matter of letting that energy flow around it until it wears away to the path we want. So it's not about the pushing the boulder and this real heavy push energy, but letting the power of that flow energy take us where we know we want to be, where we know we want to go, the desired path.
Yeah, I love that analogy. That makes so much sense. It also makes me think about Pocahontas, you know, when she has that that choice of like which river bend do I take.
Yeah,
I feel like there's real wisdom in that, of like the knowledge that there sometimes we don't even have the knowing that there is another river path.
yeah,
And actually, when we know that there is, so I shared an example this morning about how someone that a copywriter who I follow, she at Christmas time, she decided to give Starbucks vouchers to her email list. Every single person on her email list, she gave a voucher for Starbucks. And I was like, wow. I kind of wanted to reply and say, do you know how many people you've got on your email list? And I very nearly didn't accept it. And thought, oh no, like that's not fair for me to take that coffee, like she's gonna spend a fortune on Starbucks vouchers. But something in me went, no, I'm gonna get it, and then I'm gonna take a picture of me with it, and I'm gonna post it on my stories, and like just like publicly thank her, because I think that was amazing. And just that for me was that river bend, about receiving. And that was a shift for me into, she's made that choice, I'm going to receive that, I'm going to gratefully receive that. And that path started a ripple of receiving for me. I got my car fixed for free twice. It started this ripple of things, and I genuinely feel if I hadn't have said yes, I'll accept that coffee, thank you, I wouldn't have even known that the river, that bend in the river was there. So I feel there's something in this awareness for us being tuned into those little niggles of those paths that open up, and how we, through free will, need to point our Pocahontas canoe down that river bend.
Yeah. And the other thing is, it's not for us to manage somebody else, is it?
No.
You know, if that was her decision, and that was for her to manage. But yeah, that's it took you onto a different bend and created whole other things to come in. And that's amazing as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and just open up to a possibility, which is exactly sort of back to, you know, what is true? What can I allow? Can I allow multiple truths at once? That sort of opens up to that energy as well, doesn't it?
Yes. And it's vulnerable to do that, isn't it? You know, there's a vulnerability there, and because we've been taught for so long to protect, and that's like throwing off the armor, isn't it?
Yeah.
And letting it all in.
Which brings us into love consciousness, which is, I know, something we wanted to talk about. And that is like I think you did that just kind of made me think about it. So I'm going to go back to the film, because I am a bit of a geek, and it is one of my favorite films. It might be like the top or second favorite film of mine, Interstellar. And one of the things that they said in the film, I watched it again recently, that has really stuck with me and that I cannot get out of my head, is when they are talking about how we love people that have passed away.
Right.
And how there is no biological advantage to that. So biologically, us to love and bond here on the earth plane has a biological advantage, an evolutionary advantage. But for us to love someone that has passed away, there is no biological advantage. And so that helps to demonstrate how powerful love is in terms of the vibration of love. And it also shows you that love can transcend time and space and can transcend dimensions. So when I keep holding up this diagram, we need to draw a new one, Jill, I don't like it. So when we transcend time and space and we access this rather than just this, if we tap into love consciousness and we get into heart coherence, we naturally do this. We naturally go into this, and vibrationally we then attract to us. But when she said that, that has just really stuck with me, and it was like, yeah, like it's not just 3D biology, like love transcends all space and time. And that is why doing heart coherence is so powerful, and the impact that has. And I'm sure everyone in this group knows about the heart research, Heart Math Institute and things like that. Love is having the openness of vulnerability is tapping into that love consciousness, and by tapping into that we can transcend space and time. It's effectively how they, without giving too much away if you haven't seen the film, that's effectively how they space travel in the film, through tapping into love consciousness.
And when we tap into that here and now, we can travel too, but without traveling, it's more of it comes into us. And that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I've been practicing the heart coherence since 2019, and gosh, it really changes your life, doesn't it? To let the heart lead the head, and I think it's what the head wants. I think the head is looking for direction, for a way of making sense of things, and the heart can make the sense of everything.
Really? Yeah, we spend, so I think a lot of us have probably been on that journey, haven't we, where we've been led by our heads for so long, and logic, and make a decision, do a for and against list, and dropping into that heart and starting that journey is just so powerful. And it's remembering to do it, like even just in this moment I can go, right, just drop down head to heart.
Yes,
really
we've got lovely
any more questions or anything.
we've got lovely comments here, but yes, it can make us feel vulnerable, but to take that light gesture and share it with gratitude amplifies the original intention. More of the good stuff. That's what Joe said, and Kathleen said there's a beautiful soul energy that is all love. Remembering how amazing our multi-dimensional heart is, and how much love you're both spreading that frequency. Oh, sorry, I read that. It disappeared then. And much love to you both for spreading that heart, for spreading that frequency.
Amazing.
And Joe said heart leading the head is a no-brainer. Yeah, so I appreciate that, everybody's seeing us as sharing that vibration and being open about.
My cat's just joined us, for those watching. You can hear the meows. He obviously felt the heart energy.
But it's this to me was something too good and too special not to share. And it just opens up so much for everyone, doesn't it? To take that step back take a breath and that space to explore this can be right for this person. I can see something different, but we both exist together in love, in a place of love. And you know, love really is the answer, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it really is. When you look at it on a quantum physics level, it really is.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, Joe said cats love conversations like this.
Yeah, he was asleep, and as soon as we started to talk about the heart energy, he's getting involved. So
Yeah. Animals are spectacular at being in that energy, aren't they?
Yeah, one of our dogs, he will actually, when I'm meditating, he will come up and put his paw on my heart, and I can feel the energy coming through his paw. It's like he knows. It's like, I'm going to heal your heart now.
Yeah,
it's just amazing.
A lovely exchange. And this has been, I was so excited for this.
Me too. I feel like there's so much more as well, like just like at the cusp of being shared, but it's sort of still energy, and it's not quite in words. So yeah, as more comes in words, I'm sure we can always share more and do part 2.
Yes.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions or any further reflections, please do share.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love us to, and you know, it really is like we can't quite keep up with words. It's like, oh, my words are trying to run after it and not quite getting there. And
a bit like our conversation we had in energy, where I was like, Jill, if you want to talk to me about this, send me a message, and you picked up on that and was like, oh yeah, I'll send Gemma a message. It's like we had a conversation in energy, we didn't use any words.
Carol said that her dog comes for cuddles when she meditates.
Oh.
And Joe has said, please do share more crucial topic. Well, yes, I mean, do we all feel complete for today? Because now I feel myself struggling for words to go further.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same, or do you feel you have more to add? Or
no, I feel complete. I feel the same. I feel like I've completed it to this level right now.
we Kathleen said, two beautiful angels. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. And I will accept that. So yes, being as we feel complete, and there's nothing in the comments right now, excuse me, my voice is going up, to take us
sharing
if we're all complete, it feels like a good place to pause part 1. And I really have lost my voice.
Oh, thank you so much everyone for watching, and thank you Jill for being here and having this conversation.
Thank you. And I'm so sorry.
I was trying to speak for you then. I was like, thanks everyone. I was trying to close up for you.
Thank you.
She's got no voice.
Thank you everybody who joined, and thank you for everybody who listens on the replay and listens when Gemma shares as well. And I'm going to stop the live stream now.
Thanks everyone for watching. Well done, can still talk quick.